You're watching the primetime newscast in the English language on Canal, the international. Thanks for joining us. My name is Gladys Amudima. Stay tuned for our major stories. Detainees of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement Party appeared at the Central Regional Court of Appeal this Thursday for the first time after their sentence by the military tribunal, a hearing that was expected to be public but turned out to be highly restricted with roadblocks and massive security dispositions. And some 320 Cameroonian gendarmes have left the nation's capital, Yaoundé, as part of the 9th contingent for the United Nations multi-dimensional integrated stabilization mission in the Central African Republic. This comes after 3 months of intense training on law enforcement operations, professional intervention, and basic notions on functioning of the United Nations MINUSCA. And as Cameroon joins the world to commemorate International Democracy Day this September 15, many have questioned the practice of democracy in Cameroon. In this edition of the newscast, you will have the views of the movement Mouvement Tourne la Page that granted the press conference in the nation's capital, Yaoundé. Those were our major stories, developments right ahead. Hello, thanks for joining us once again on the primetime newscast in the English language. The detainees of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement Party appeared at the Central Regional Court of Appeal in the nation's capital, Yaoundé, this September 15 for the first time after their sentence by the military tribunal. A hearing that was to be public turned out to be highly restricted with roadblocks and massive security disposition as the party's President Maurice Kamto was presented in his black robe. Hysen Chia was there and now reports.
Heavy deployment of the forces of law and order and roadblocks in front of the Central Regional Court of Appeal. Access into the court's premises strictly limited as Maurice Kamto and the CRM lawyers were here to defend their party detainees. An atmosphere which doesn't appear well to the officials of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement, who describe it as anti-democratic practices on an international day for democracy.
This is a hearing in a court, actually, which is supposed to be public, which means that every Cameroonian can really attend the hearing. But as you can see, we have police, we have gendarmeries. They have blocked the routes, which is leading to the Court of Appeal today, which is not good. And this is happening during a special day, which is the International Day of Democracy. Are we really in democracy? If we are in democracy, why should we face such a situation where citizens cannot move around freely?
The hearings this day adjourned for a number of irregularities.
You know, actually, you have to produce a document to the court, but the dates are different. Whether as far as the judge is concerned, our lawyers have a different date, and then even the state prosecutor has a different date.
But the defense lawyers attribute such to delayed tactics to keep their clients behind bars.
It's not true. The commissaire de gouvernement, which is the representative of the legal department, say that our clients appeal for the decision late. It's not true.
Bibu Nisak and the others therefore remain in detention while waiting for the effective start of the court's proceedings on October 20th.
And there has been rising insecurity in the seaside resort town of Kribi in the south region of Cameroon. Attacks and thefts recorded daily, and it has been attributed to unemployment, young people who have been accused of acts of criminality. The letters is the lifeless body of a man that was found after he went missing for days. It was found in a state of decomposition. Sheriff Asali with more.
The lifeless body of a man in his early 40s was discovered in an advanced state of decomposition under the Cliquez bridge in the seaside town of Kribi. It was a local resident who alerted the municipal authorities of the city of Kribi, who immediately buried the missing. In every corner you go in this city, we witness attacks of all kinds. Today, young people engage in vandalism acts by developing thefts and assaults. According to these residents, this bridge, like several other abandoned construction sites in the city, is a hideout to men of the underworld. The most famous is this site abandoned at the beach of Ngoe, which has become a refuge for thugs of all kinds. Neither the urban community of Kribi, let alone the police, have been able to fish out the thugs who occupy these places. The authorities have to sensitize the youth through different forums. And why not go down to secondary and primary schools? Because we have all seen for ourselves criminality taking over on young people, and the observation is striking. We now live things that we often see at home on TV. The macabre discovery of this lifeless body in an advanced state of decomposition brings up to date a long-lasting problem of insecurity that the urban community has not been able to solve so far.
And some 320 Cameroonian gendarmes have left the nation's capital, Yaoundé, as part of the 9th contingent of the United Nations Multi-Dimensional Integrated Stabilization Mission in the Central African Republic. This after 3 months of intense training on law enforcement operations, professional intervention, and basic notions of the United Nations functioning, that is MINUSCA. The farewell ceremony took place in the nation's capital, Yaoundé, this Thursday. The details with Beatrice Gamo.
The ambience this Thursday morning at the center for the training on law enforcement techniques, one of total readiness for the mission ahead. 230 gendarme officers apt as peacekeepers to help a brotherly and neighboring country, the Central African Republic. They are part of the 1,070 soldiers, Cameroon's 9th contingent for the UN Multidimensional Integrated Stabilization Peacekeeping Mission MINUSCA in the Central African Republic.
The morale is very high, and we will do our best, our best, to represent green, red, yellow flag of Cameroon.
150 elements will be stationed at Bangui, while the other 180 will be based in Boa.
Amongst which 10% are female. You know, the United Nations is very conscious about this. 10%, which means I have 17 female officers who are going to work with me.
Even after 3 months of refresher courses at their wide training center.
In law enforcement operations, professional intervention, and some basic knowledge about the network of United Nations, how it functions.
Farewell ceremony this September the 15th as they take the roads to join the other soldiers presently at the Mochebum Training Center, Upper Nyong Division of the East region of the country. From there, the 9th contingent of 1,070 will leave for the Central African Republic.
And we talk economy. The Professional Association of Credit Institutions in Cameroon have presented proposals for the improvement of the finance law in Cameroon. This was during an audience that was granted by the Director General of Taxes, who is currently on a working visit to Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. He equally received the Association of Insurance Companies in Cameroon. Let's have a take of the presidents of the insurance companies, the Association of Insurance Companies in Cameroon, the president in this except that we get together by the newsroom. You have that.
It was a sectoral workshop with the insurers, and for the finance law for 2023, we wanted to know in which conditions it could be possible to have in the EFC, the indemnity at the end of the career of the salary. We wanted to know if it was possible in the finance law 2023 to have the VAT out of this indemnity.
About Article 4 of Law 211 fixing royalties of television and radio stations of the Cameroon Musical Arts Corporation, SONACAM, has been scrutinized, that is today, in Cameroon's economic city, Douala, and according to the lapses in the laws were highlighted during the meeting in Bonanjo today. The details with Morindi.
The main problematic is Article 4 of Law 2011, fixing royalties of television and radio stations to the Cameroon Musical Arts Corporation, SONACAM.
For me, this article is not well written because some things are not clear to be understood very well. The government would have done as he did for redevance audiovisual or credit foncier taxes or FN taxes. Every worker play music at home, so you have to contribute for the well-being of musicians.
The lapses observed on the law rather benefits or plays to the advantage of the audiovisual landscape, with its owners exploiting the sector without paying authors' rights. And a meeting in Douala, September 15, aimed at addressing the problem and conscientizing owners of both radio and television houses towards embracing new techniques and innovative approach based on negotiations with SONACAM.
The new manager de SONACAM, the PCA, oui, et the professor Atibazor, take the resolution to change, to manage, how to do, to make a new direction with artists, with the media.
So artists hearing their song on radio or in a television show is a great feeling, but they continue to question and wonder how the royalties are managed and recovered as well on the field.
And after the outing of Northwest Funds, who have promised to cast a spell of ill luck on separatist fighters for desecrating their fandoms, many people are already worried about the language used by the funds at the time when Cameroon is in a peace-building process. In the following report, we take a look at the power of the tongue, which is indicative of the voice of the gods. Henry Kejan in this report.
The caucus of Northwest Funds has sparked fire to the direction of separatist fighters, casting a spell on those who picked arms against the state. Their language has been analyzed by some specialists as pouring salt on a gaping wound. Like the Christians say, death or life is in the power of the tongue. So to speak, the spiritual tongue is indicative of the voice of the gods. The magnanimous instrument called the tongue has the potential for good or evil, to build or to destroy. As the Northwest Funds met in the 8th session, many are those who are asking the question, who is behind the declaration of the funds to cast out spell on their subjects who have picked up arms, rather than bringing them and preaching the language of peace. It is true Cameroonians are not happy with the prevailing socio-political, economic and security situation going on in the English-speaking parts of the country. But the worry of many is the language used by the custodians of the culture, the tradition and customs of the people. Many are those who are of the opinion that the public display by the phones was not necessary, as the gods do not speak in public but act in silence. By the tenets of our tradition, the items needed for sacrifice are not made public but are decided by the Council of Chiefs in private. When Cameroonians hear of a list of items presented for the cleansing of the land, one will think the funds are only out for food. Goats, fowls, palm oil, palm wine, salt, hot peppers, and more would be needed by the royals. Those items were never needed during the major national dialogue to chart a way forward for peace. It is time to put things straight and speak a better language of peace and development than threats and spell casting.
And as Cameroon joins the international community to commemorate World Democracy Day, many are already questioning the practice of democracy in Cameroon, and amongst them is the group Mouvement tous, that before the press today in the nation's capital, Yaoundé, gave their version of what democracy is all about. Umukusumi with more.
The practice of democracy in Cameroon comes under review on this International Day of Democracy. According to Mouvement tous of Jean-Marc Bikoko, true democracy is still far-fetched.
La démocratie étant le pouvoir du peuple par le peuple et pour le peuple, les élections sont le moyen d'expression par excellence du pouvoir du peuple. Mais telles qu'elles sont organisées au Cameroun, est-ce que c'est encore le moyen? Parfois, nous, on vote le noir, on nous dit que c'est le blanc qui a gagné.
The movement used this occasion to remind political parties that democracy is based on freedom.
La démocratie, c'est le pouvoir du peuple, par le peuple et pour le peuple. Et que les anges ne descendront pas du ciel pour venir nous libérer.
And the statement of the Secretary General of the United Nations Organizations, Antonio Guterres, this day highlights the setbacks of democracy across the world.
Yet, across the world, democracy is backsliding. Civic space is shrinking, distrust and disinformation are growing, and polarization is undermining democratic institutions. Now is the time to stand up for the democratic principles of equality, inclusion, and solidarity. Without a free press, democracy cannot survive. Without freedom of expression, there is no freedom. On Democracy Day and every day, let us join forces to secure freedom and protect the rights of all people everywhere.
This as Cameroon joins the international community to commemorate the International Democracy Day under the theme Importance of Media Freedom to Democracy, Peace and Delivering on the Sustainable Development Goals.
And it is with that report we wrap up this edition of the Primetime Newscast in the English language on Canal the International. The French edition will be yours at this never second with Ghislaine Alain Kanga. Up next is Debrief de l'Actualité with Lil Piedju. I will be yours again tomorrow, same time, God's willing. Bye-bye.